Have you ever wondered if a place can hide in plain sight? Not because it is forgotten, but because it chooses silence over fame. Deep in the folds of China's vast landscapes, beyond the highways and skylines, there are villages that exist like whispers of another time. They breathe at a slower rhythm, untouched by neon and noise, where the sound of a wooden wheel or a temple bell still carries across the valley. The journey to reach them is never straightforward. Sometimes it begins on a road that dissolves into stone, sometimes on a narrow footpath that winds through bamboo groves. The air grows softer, heavier with the scent of moss and wood smoke. There's a moment, just before arrival, when the world seems to pause, as if it's testing whether you truly belong here. Then, a cluster of tiled roofs appears beneath the mist, and you realize you have stepped into one of China's secret worlds. In Guizhou province, far from the bustle of Guilin, the ancient Miao village of Jeji hides between layers of terraced hills. It is often called the 1,000-household village, though it feels less like a village and more like a living museum of wooden harmony. The air is thick with humidity and the faint sweetness of rice wine. Wooden stilt houses lean into the slopes, their balconies heavy with drying corn and chili peppers. Below, narrow stone alleys twist like veins, carrying laughter and footsteps down to the river that reflects every light like a moving painting. Each house was built without a single nail, held together by joinery perfected through centuries of tradition. The Miao people believe wood is alive, that it breathes and remembers. They carve their stories into beams and doors, a record of ancestors and seasons that never needed ink. When the morning fog lifts, the whole village seems to exhale, 1,000 rooftops shimmering with dew, smoke rising in gentle spirals from every kitchen. It is not a spectacle, it is a rhythm, ancient and unhurried. In the evening, when oil lamps flicker in every window, songs rise from the main square. The women's silver headdresses catch the dim light like constellations in motion. The melodies they sing are old, carrying stories of love and loss across mountains. To an outsider, they sound like echoes of a forgotten world. But to the villagers, they are daily prayers that bind generations. Even the air seems to hum with memory. Not far away, hidden deeper among Guizhou's folds, lies Jiaoxingdong village, another realm where wooden bridges stretch over mirror-like streams and drum towers stand as the soul of the community. Each tower, built by hand without metal or glue, serves as both meeting place and spiritual heart. Beneath its layered eaves, the villagers gather at dusk, playing reed pipes that fill the air with the sound of wind itself. It is here that time becomes circular, where night and day blur, and every note feels like it's floating between centuries. The Dong people are known for their craftsmanship, their music, and their silence. They carve bridges called wind and rain bridges, symbols of protection and welcome. Each bridge tells a story of storms endured, of travelers who found shelter. When you walk across one, you feel the wood pulse softly underfoot, as though the bridge is aware of your presence. In the distance, terraced fields climb into mist, their curves tracing the heartbeat of the land. The rice terraces here are older than memory. Generations have carved them into the mountains like slow prayers, one step at a time. When the rain comes, the terraces fill with water that mirrors the sky, creating floating mosaics of clouds and light. From above, It looks like the earth has learned to breathe in color. Villagers say the fields are alive, that if you listen closely at dawn, you can hear them sigh when the wind moves through the stalks. Traveling east toward the Jiangxi province, there is another world waiting. Sichuan County is sometimes called China's most beautiful countryside, though words fail to hold its quiet dignity. Villages like Likang and Huangling appear suddenly between folds of green mountains. Their white-walled homes with black-tiled roofs rise above golden rapeseed fields that stretch into the horizon like rivers of light. When spring arrives, the blossoms paint the valleys yellow, and from above it looks as if sunlight has spilled across the earth. The architecture here follows a style called Hui, a legacy of the wealthy merchants from the Ming and Qing dynasties. Every courtyard, every carved window lattice speaks of balance between prosperity and humility, between art and life. Time has softened their edges, moss creeping along the stone, vines curling through the cracks. Yet the silence of the streets feels deliberate, as though the village itself is protecting the stories written in its walls. In Huangling, the villagers still dry their harvests on wooden racks that stretch over rooftops. Red chili, orange persimmons, and yellow corn turn the whole village into a tapestry of color. From afar, it looks like a living painting, a pattern that changes with the seasons. The scent of smoke and fruit lingers in the air, mixing with the mountain breeze. There is no rush here. Even the wind moves slowly, as if careful not to disturb the peace. At dawn, women sweep the cobbled alleys, their movements rhythmic and soundless. Water flows from bamboo pipes into stone basins, reflecting the first pale light of the sun. Every motion feels rehearsed over centuries. Daily rituals performed with grace that no longer needs thought. Visitors walk quietly, afraid to interrupt the scene. And yet, beneath the calm, life continues. Roosters call, kettles boil, children laugh by the riverside. It is harmony, simple and complete. A few valleys away, another hidden gem lies almost forgotten. The village of Jingdezhen, once the porcelain capital of the world. Its fame may have spread centuries ago, but within its old quarter, time stands still. In narrow workshops, potters still shape clay by hand, their fingers remembering movements passed down since the Tang dynasty. The sound of spinning wheels and soft tapping of brushes fills the air like a quiet heartbeat. Every bowl, every vase is not merely made, it is born. The kilns here have been burning for over 1,000 years. Flames dance through their long chambers, painting the clay with shades of blue and white. When the doors open, heat spills into the night and the glow lights up the alley walls. For a moment, it feels as though the entire village breathes fire. To stand here is to witness the patience of human hands, the endurance of craft that refuses to vanish even in the age of machines. In another corner of hidden China, nestled between the karst peaks of Guangxi, lies the village of Ping'an. It floats above a sea of terraces known as the Longji rice fields, the dragon's backbone. The name fits. From afar, the terraces curl and twist like the scales of a sleeping dragon, gleaming under mist and sunlight. Villagers rise before dawn to tend to them, their shadows moving slowly along the ridges like living brushstrokes across the mountain. Life in Ping'an is built on slopes and seasons. The houses stand on tall stilts, their beams darkened by rain and time. Smoke from breakfast fires rises through the valley, drifting between peaks. Children carry baskets of seedlings, and elders sit by doorways weaving bamboo strips into baskets. Every sound, the splash of water, the creak of wood, seems to echo longer here, as if the air itself holds memory. The people say the terraces are not just fields but family, passed down, tended and respected like ancestors. Even the festivals here remain untouched by time. During harvest, lanterns fill the night sky, and music spills from the hills. It is not a performance, it is a celebration of endurance, of living in balance with a land that demands patience. When rain begins to fall, villagers continue dancing, bare feet splashing through puddles, their laughter rising above the sound of thunder. It feels both human and eternal. What makes these villages extraordinary is not isolation, but their quiet agreement with time. They do not chase modernity, yet they are not relics. They exist in balance, adapting just enough to survive, but never enough to forget. In their silence, they hold the essence of what the world has lost: stillness, patience, connection. Each village, whether in Guizhou, Jiangxi, or Guangxi, carries a pulse of life so subtle, it can only be felt when you stop trying to measure it. The more you travel through these hidden corners, the more you realize how vast China truly is, not in kilometers, but in depth. Beneath every modern skyline lies a countryside that still hums with the heartbeat of ancient earth. The mountains are not just geography, they are guardians. The rivers are not just water, they are memories flowing between generations. And the people, quiet, humble, resilient, are the keepers of a beauty too fragile for fame. When you sit by a riverside here, watching the mist roll in, you begin to sense what makes these places sacred. It is not the architecture or the scenery, but the way everything belongs, the way sound, color, and time seem to agree on one rhythm. You feel it in the air, a calm certainty that the world doesn't need to rush, that beauty doesn't need witnesses to exist. As the sun sets over the terraces, the light turns golden and soft. The wooden houses glow, the fields shimmer, and the sky blushes behind the mountains. Somewhere, a distant song rises, faint, slow, and hauntingly beautiful. You don't need to understand the words. The melody carries meaning enough. It tells you this: that wonder is not always hidden. Sometimes it's waiting quietly, where no one remembers to look. These are the unseen villages of China, not lost, but preserved by their own silence. They are reminders that progress does not always mean movement, and that stillness can be its own kind of strength. Here, the past is not gone. It breathes through every sound, every color, every breath of mist that drifts across the valley. And in this moment, as night falls and the first stars appear, you realize that the most beautiful places on earth are not the ones that shout their existence, but the ones that whisper. There is a road that climbs through the clouds, curling through Yunnan's green mountains, where the air tastes like rain and the scent of pine drifts between valleys. Along this road, where mist wraps the cliffs like silk, lies the ancient Naxi village of Baisha. It sits quietly at the foot of Jade Dragon Snow Mountain, its white peaks always watching from above. Here, cobbled alleys shimmer under thin streams of water that flow gently down their center, a reminder of an old Naxi belief that water must always move, because still water forgets its purpose. The village seems frozen in amber. Whitewashed houses with wooden beams stand shoulder to shoulder, their roofs curved like the wings of cranes. Old women in indigo aprons weave embroidery by doorways, the patterns repeating stories older than their ancestors. Each thread tells of spirits, mountains, and rivers, of how the Naxi once wrote with symbols called domba, a script made of pictures rather than words. The ink they used was ground from pine soot, and the stories they wrote were meant not just to be read but to be sung. At the heart of Baisha stands a quiet temple where ancient murals still glow faintly under centuries of dust. Their colors, reds, blues, and golds, were mixed from crushed gemstones and herbs. Each figure painted on the wall tells of harmony between heaven, earth, and humankind. Standing there, the silence feels like prayer. Even the light filtering through the wooden slats seems softer, aware that it's falling on something sacred. Farther along the Yunnan highlands lies Shachi, a town that once stood on the Tea-Horse Road, a trade route older than memory itself. The road once connected Tibet and Southeast Asia, carrying tea, salt, silk, and stories between worlds. Shaxi's marketplace, paved with worn gray stones, still echoes with the footsteps of traders long gone. The square is lined with weathered wooden balconies, their beams etched by the touch of centuries. When you walk through the square at dusk, it feels like stepping into a memory the earth refuses to release. The sound of a single bell from the ancient temple rings across the valley. Smoke rises from clay chimneys, and the scent of roasted barley drifts through the air. In one corner, an old man plays a three-stringed lute, his song soft enough to make the wind pause. It's the kind of music that doesn't demand attention, it simply waits for you to listen. Beyond the town lies Shibao Mountain, where stone carvings watch silently from the cliffs. Some date back more than 1,000 years, their faces smoothed by rain and time. They depict dancers, kings and gods from the Tang dynasty, all carved in a time when this valley was a meeting place of cultures. The mountain itself feels alive, each step echoing like a heartbeat deep within the rock. Locals say the spirits of travelers rest here, drawn to the stillness of its caves. If you continue west, the road thins into a ribbon that disappears into the Tibetan plateau. There, at the edge of the world, sits Yubeng, a village so remote it can only be reached on foot or horseback. Hidden beneath the snow peaks of Meili Mountain, it feels like a secret guarded by clouds. Pilgrims come here not for comfort, but for transformation. The path to reach it is steep and narrow, crossing icy rivers and dense forests where the air thins with every breath. When you finally arrive, the first thing you notice is the quiet. Prayer flags flutter above wooden rooftops, their colors faded by wind. The villagers live close to the earth, tending yaks and barley fields under the shadow of sacred peaks. Every morning, the mountains glow pink with the first light of dawn, and the entire valley feels like it's exhaling after a long night. In that stillness, it's easy to forget the modern world exists at all. The people of Yubeng believe that the mountain is a living being, a protector and witness. They do not climb its peaks, for that would disturb the gods who sleep within. Instead, they walk in circles around it, a pilgrimage known as Kora. Each step is both an act of devotion and humility, a reminder that not all heights are meant to be conquered. The air smells of juniper and snow. Somewhere in the distance, a prayer wheel turns, clicking softly like a heartbeat. From Yubeng, the trail leads down into valleys that feel suspended between worlds. You pass waterfalls that pour from cliffs in ribbons of silver, their spray hanging in the sunlight like dust made of light. At night, the stars burn fiercely in the thin air, each one seeming close enough to touch. There are no lights here, no engines, no echoes of the modern world, only the rhythm of wind and water. It is in that emptiness that the soul begins to listen. To the northeast, in the Sichuan highlands, lies Jiaju Tibetan village, hidden among terraced fields and apple orchards. The houses here are unlike any other in China. Tall stone structures painted with white patterns and topped with golden spires. From afar, they look like fortresses scattered across the slopes, glowing against the green of the hills. Inside, butter lamps flicker before family altars, their flames steady and eternal. The villagers wear crimson robes and speak softly, as if mindful that the mountains are listening. During festivals, they gather in the open fields, dancing in slow circles to the rhythm of long horns and drums. It's a celebration of life's endurance, not of luxury or excess. When the sun sets, the mountains turn purple, and the fields hum with the sound of insects. Smoke rises from the chimneys in straight, delicate lines, merging with the sky as if returning prayers to heaven. What sets Jeju apart is its quiet dignity. The houses, built of stone and wood, are designed not just for beauty but survival, to withstand the long, hard winters that blanket the valley in snow. Yet there's warmth in every corner. The smell of yak butter tea, the laughter of children chasing one another between walls, the gentle murmur of old women spinning wool. It's a world defined not by what it has, but by what it chooses to keep. Further east, in the mountains of Fujian, lies another secret world, the Tulu villages of the Hakka people. From above, they look like circles drawn on the earth, each one a self-contained universe, built of earth and wood. Some rise 5 stories high, housing entire clans under one roof. The walls are thick and curved, designed to keep out heat, wind, and even enemies. But inside, life unfolds in perfect symmetry. Kitchens, bedrooms, and courtyards spiraling around a central heart. Walking through a Tulu feels like stepping inside a living clock. The air is cool, the light soft. You can hear every footstep echo against the circular walls. Children play near wells that have provided water for centuries. Elders sit under the eaves, their eyes following the slow dance of shadows. Every brick here was made by hand, mixed with earth, rice, and glutinous syrup to make it endure. Some of these structures are more than 600 years old, and they still stand strong against storms and time. At night, the circle glows with lantern light. Doors creak open, families gather for meals, and the hum of conversation rises through the air. From above, it looks like a ring of fire floating in darkness. It's easy to understand why the Tulu are often called castles of earth, not for their size, but for their spirit of unity. Here, privacy is rare, but loneliness is unknown. In nearby Yongding County, some Tulu have become silent, their courtyards empty, their doors closed. Yet, even abandoned, they hold a kind of grace. Moss climbs the walls, and vines hang like curtains, but the symmetry remains perfect. The wind that moves through the corridors feels like the breath of memory. You sense that if you listen closely enough, you might still hear laughter from long ago. Beyond Fujian, deeper inland, lies the lesser-known village of Hongchun in Anhui. It's shaped like an ox when viewed from above, a symbol of strength and prosperity. The streets are the veins, the water channels the lifeblood. Every drop of water that enters the village passes through its ponds and courtyards before flowing out again, as if the entire settlement breathes. The design, conceived during the Ming Dynasty, shows a balance between nature and human intention that feels almost spiritual. In the early morning, the surface of Moon Pond mirrors the whitewashed houses and black rooftops perfectly. Painters come here to capture the reflection, but no canvas can match its stillness. Ducks glide across the water, leaving ripples that seem to bend time itself. Locals move quietly, sweeping the streets, lighting incense. It's easy to mistake the village for a painting until a gust of wind stirs the water and reality reveals itself again. Hongchun's beauty lies in its symmetry, but also in its imperfections. The cracks in its walls, the fading paint, the sound of footsteps echoing in narrow alleys. These are not flaws, but proof of endurance. When rain falls, it slides gently down the tiled roofs, pooling in small stone basins designed centuries ago to conserve every drop. It's a reminder that harmony is not about control but understanding, about letting time do its work without resistance. From Anhui to Yunnan, from Tibet to Fujian, every hidden village shares one truth. They exist at the border between survival and art. They are not preserved by walls or museums, but by the humility of their people and the patience of their land. Modernity may reach their edges, but inside, the rhythm remains the same, slow, deliberate, and aware. Traveling through these places changes the way you understand beauty. It is not something you visit. It is something that reveals itself slowly, only when you are still enough to see it. The sound of a flute at dusk, the flicker of a lamp through wooden slats, the curve of a roof against the sky, all of it adds up to something vast and tender. As night deepens over the mountains, the villages become silhouettes against the stars. The rivers glint faintly in the moonlight, and the only movement is the slow drift of mist across the valleys. It's then you realize these are not forgotten places. They are waiting, not for discovery, but for understanding. In the far west of China, where the land begins to dissolve into desert and sky, the mountains of the Tian Shan rise like sleeping giants. Their snowcaps gleam in the thin air, and below them, hidden among the apricot trees, lies the old Uyghur village of Tuayuk. It sits quietly in a narrow valley near Turpan, surrounded by cliffs the color of rust. The walls of its homes are made of mud brick, sun-baked to a golden hue that glows at dawn. When the wind moves through the valley, it carries the scent of dust and fruit blossoms. The people here live as they have for centuries. They dry grapes in earthen towers that stand like sentinels against the hills, their wooden slats letting in just enough air to turn green grapes into sweet golden raisins. Water flows from ancient underground channels called karst, carved by hand, long before modern tools existed. The sound of trickling water under the earth is constant, a hidden heartbeat that has kept the village alive in one of the driest places on the planet. At dusk, shadows stretch across the mud brick walls, and the air cools with sudden sharpness. The call to prayer drifts softly over the valley, echoing off the cliffs. Lamps flicker behind wooden screens carved with geometric patterns. The sky above turns indigo, then black, then infinite. The desert, which by day feels harsh and alive with heat, now becomes a mirror for the stars. Tuayuk seems to vanish into the night, becoming part of the landscape itself, half village, half memory. Beyond the mountains lies the edge of the Taklamakan Desert, its name meaning if you go in, you won't come out. Yet even here, hidden beneath the shifting dunes, life persists. The small oasis town of Guilin clings to existence by the grace of a single spring. Palm trees stand against the horizon, defying the desert's silence. The people here have built their homes from clay and straw, their walls thick to hold the coolness of the night. When the wind rises, it hums through the alleys, carrying sand that whispers against every door. Deserts have a way of protecting their secrets. Centuries ago, caravans moved through these sands, their footprints swallowed before sunrise. Somewhere beneath the dunes lie ruins of forgotten temples and walls, fragments of the ancient Silk Road. The sand hides everything, yet preserves it perfectly. Travelers who stop here often find shards of pottery, beads, or the faint outline of an old stone path. Each piece is a voice from a vanished world, still speaking softly through time. Northward, where the desert gives way to grasslands, the earth stretches endlessly beneath the sky. Here, in the open plains of Inner Mongolia, the air moves like an ocean, wide, slow, and eternal. Among the rolling hills lies the village of Zilamurin. It's not a village in the usual sense, but a gathering of yurts that form a community which drifts with the seasons. Each yurt, made of felt and wood, is a world of its own, round, warm, filled with the scent of milk tea and firewood. The people who live here measure time not by clocks, but by the color of the sky. Mornings begin with the cry of eagles, and evenings end with the hum of the wind through tall grass. Horses graze freely near the horizon, their manes catching the light like ribbons. When night falls, the stars appear so close, they seem to rest on the ground. Around the fire, families sing songs passed down through generations. their voices weaving into the wind. It's a kind of music that has no beginning or end, just a rhythm that matches the movement of the earth. In summer, the grasslands turn emerald and alive. The scent of wildflowers drifts for miles. Children chase after sheep, laughter echoing across the plains. In winter, the land turns silver and silent. Snow piles against the yurts, and smoke rises straight into the frozen sky. Inside, people sit close, telling stories of ancestors who once rode with the stars as their compass. The land has shaped them, and they have shaped the land. It is a relationship older than language, older even than history itself. To the west, in the Gansu corridor, lies a village that seems born from wind and stone. Zhangye's Pingshanhu, perched near the edge of the famous Dansha landforms. The hills around it are painted in impossible colors, red, gold, and violet, layers of sandstone shaped by rain, sun, and patience. When the light shifts, the hills seem to move, breathing in waves of color that change with every passing minute. The village itself is modest, built of earthen walls that blend perfectly into the landscape. The people of Pingshanhu rise with the sun and rest with the stars. Their lives are simple, tending goats, drying corn, collecting water from wells that draw deep into the ancient rock. Yet their days unfold against a backdrop so surreal, it feels like living inside a dream. In the evenings, the sky turns from gold to violet to black, and the Dansha hills glow faintly in the afterlight. It's a sight few ever see, but those who do say it changes the way they understand color. Farther west, near Dunhuang, another hidden world waits beneath the cliffs, the caves of Mogao. Though no longer a village in the traditional sense, they once formed a living community of monks and artists who carved their devotion into stone. Inside the caves, murals stretch across the walls in vivid detail, scenes of paradise, myths, and journeys of enlightenment painted over 1,000 years ago. Even in the dim light, the colors remain alive. Standing there, you can feel the silence of centuries pressing against the air. Dust hangs like gold in the beams of sunlight. Outside, the desert wind moves endlessly, shaping dunes that never stop shifting. The monks who once lived here are gone, but their breath seems to linger in the walls. Dunhuang was once a crossroads of the world, a place where merchants, pilgrims, and wanderers met before disappearing into the sands. The village nearby still carries that spirit, half transient, half eternal. Travel north again, and the land transforms once more, from desert to forest, from red dust to green shadow. In the Daxing Anling Range, hidden deep within Heilongjiang Province, lies Mohe, China's northernmost settlement. Here, the nights stretch endlessly in winter, and the auroras sometimes dance across the sky in curtains of green and blue. The village sits near the Amur River, its wooden houses built low against the cold. The air is sharp enough to turn every breath into mist. Life here is quiet, shaped by endurance. The people rise before dawn to chop firewood, the sound of axes echoing through the stillness. Reindeer herders from the Yuwenki minority still move through the forests, guiding their animals with soft calls. The smell of pine and smoke fills the air, mingling with the distant scent of snow. When the northern lights appear, the whole village gathers outside, their faces lit by the shifting colors. In that moment, the cold disappears, replaced by awe. In spring, the ice breaks and the rivers begin to move again. Birds return, their cries piercing the silence like bells. The forest floor comes alive with moss and wild flowers, and the air softens. Yet even in warmth, the people remain mindful of the land's moods. They speak softly of spirits that live in the trees, of ancestors who became stars. Here, survival is not taken for granted. It is a daily act of gratitude. Between these distant regions, the stories of China's hidden villages form a tapestry of extremes. From sand to snow, from mountain to grassland, each one holds a fragment of the country's soul, shaped by its landscape and history. Some whisper through wind and prayer flags. Others hum through markets and hearth fires. Together they tell a story of endurance that transcends geography. The deeper you travel into these forgotten corners, the more you realize that remoteness is not isolation, it's protection, a way for the world to guard its oldest truths. The people who live in these places do not seek to escape modernity. They simply refuse to let it erase their rhythm. They build, sing, and farm at their own pace, guided not by speed, but by necessity, by respect. When most travelers think of China, they imagine the Great Wall, the Forbidden City, or the glowing skyline of Shanghai. But far beyond the noise and the flash, there are hidden landscapes where history sleeps beneath moss and mist. In these forgotten spaces, you can still feel the pulse of an older world, where mountains hum softly in the distance and the air tastes of rain and memory. Here, in these secret places, every stone and shadow feels alive, as if waiting for someone who truly listens. This journey is not about ticking boxes or chasing photographs. It's about slowing down, letting the silence stretch, and discovering what lies beneath the surface of a country that is older than time itself. Deep in the remote corners of Yunnan province lies a valley so lush and surreal, it seems carved from a painter's imagination. The Yunnan rice terraces. Spanning over 40,000 hectares, these terraces ripple down the Alao Mountains like an endless cascade of glass mirrors. Each curve reflects the sky in shades of silver and fire, changing color with the hours. At dawn, clouds roll gently between the steps, wrapping the valley in mist. By evening, the terraces glow gold, then fade into deep violet as the sun sinks. Created by the Han people more than 1,300 years ago, this living sculpture of water and earth still feeds generations who work it by hand. The air carries the scent of soil and smoke from distant hearths, and the sound of water trickling through bamboo channels echoes like a lullaby. Standing there, you realize it's not just a landscape, it's a living heart that has never stopped beating. If you travel north, where the mountains begin to rise like frozen waves, you'll find a lake so quiet and perfect it feels like a secret between heaven and earth. Lugu Lake. Straddling the border between Yunnan and Sichuan, this sapphire body of water lies over 2,600 meters above sea level. Locals call it the Mother Lake, and legend says it was born from the tears of a goddess. The Mosuo people who live here follow one of the world's last matrilineal cultures, where women lead families, and love is free of possession. Every morning, sunlight spreads across the lake like liquid gold, revealing floating wooden boats gliding silently through the mist. On the far shore, islands drift in stillness, each holding ancient shrines hidden among cypress trees. At night, stars fall so close they shimmer on the water's surface. In that silence, time seems to fold, and you feel as though you are watching the first dawn of the world. Further east, past the deep green forests and winding rivers, lies a wonder few ever see, the Zhangyi Dainsha landform. Here, the mountains look as though 1,000 artists spilled their paints across the earth. Stripes of crimson, orange, and gold stretch endlessly across the ridges, sculpted by wind and rain over 24 million years. The rock formations rise like waves frozen in motion, bending and folding into impossible shapes. Under the sun, they blaze with color. Under clouds, they fade into melancholy tones of rust and rose. Scientists call it a masterpiece of geological evolution, but locals believe the mountains are the remnants of celestial dragons who once danced here. The air smells faintly of dust and iron, and when the wind passes through the canyons, it sings, a low, haunting tone that feels almost human. It's hard not to believe that the land itself remembers. But China's beauty doesn't only live in color, sometimes it hides in shadow. Deep within the Guangxi region, the reed flute cave glows with otherworldly light. Inside, stalactites and stalagmites twist into shapes that seem alive, some like dripping curtains, others like frozen waterfalls. For nearly 1,200 years, poets and travelers have carved their names into the limestone walls, leaving whispers of their wonder behind. The cave's natural formations shimmer with minerals that reflect every beam of light, creating an unearthly palette of blue and emerald. When you walk through it, your footsteps echo, as if time itself were responding. Above you, the ceiling glows faintly, as though the stars have descended underground. It's said that ancient scholars once came here to meditate, believing that the cave held the breath of the earth, a rhythm that could awaken clarity in the human heart. Far away, in Sichuan, where the clouds cling to the mountains like drifting silk, lies Mount Ame, one of China's 4 sacred Buddhist peaks. The journey to its summit is not an easy one. You climb through forests of whispering bamboo, past ancient monasteries wrapped in mist, hearing distant bells fade in and out like memories. At the top, the world seems to dissolve into light. Sea after sea of clouds stretch below, and the golden statue of Samantabhadra, standing 48 meters tall, glows like dawn itself. Pilgrims come here not only to see but to feel, to breathe in the silence that surrounds the temples. Monkeys watch curiously from the trees, their eyes reflecting the sky. And as the sun breaks through the fog, turning everything into a haze of fire and silver, you realize this is not just a mountain, it's a bridge between heaven and earth. Every hidden place in China holds its own rhythm, its own secret heartbeat. From the terraced mountains to the sacred peaks, from lakes that mirror the stars, to caves that whisper in the dark, they remind us that wonder still lives quietly, waiting to be seen. This is only the beginning of the journey. Ahead lie deeper mysteries, more forgotten sanctuaries carved by time and patience. And as we move forward, the world will unfold one hidden wonder at a time, revealing stories that few have ever heard. Until now, there is a place in southern China where the air itself feels ancient, where stone seems to breathe and rivers hum softly through valleys that have never known silence. This is Wuling Yuan, a labyrinth of sandstone pillars hidden within Hunan province. Over 3,000 towering spires rise from the mist, each sculpted by wind and rain over millions of years. Some stretch more than 600 feet into the sky, so slender that they seem to defy gravity. When dawn breaks, fog flows through the forest like a living tide, wrapping the pillars in drifting silver. Locals say that each column carries a soul of the mountain, and if you listen long enough, you can hear the murmurs of ancestors within the wind. Wuling Yuan inspired the floating peaks of Pandora in Avatar, but standing here, reality feels far more surreal than any imagined world. The light shifts constantly, one moment revealing the green tips of pine trees clinging to impossible cliffs, the next fading into soft shadow where everything feels suspended between dream and truth. North of here, hidden within the folds of Guizhou province, lies a place where water falls from the heavens with the voice of thunder, Huangguoshu Waterfall. It is one of the largest waterfalls in Asia, plunging more than 250 feet from a limestone cliff into a roaring jade basin below. From afar, it looks like a long white ribbon unraveling in slow motion. Up close, it consumes every sound. A fine mist fills the air, carrying the scent of wet stone and moss. Behind the curtain of falling water, a secret cave waits, the Water Curtain Cave, where you can stand and watch the world through a shifting wall of liquid light. Inside, every drop echoes like a distant heartbeat. According to legend, this cave once inspired the ancient story of the Monkey King, who trained under the roar of the falls to harness his strength. Even now, the place feels charged, almost alive, as if the mountain remembers the myth it gave birth to. Far to the west, beyond dusty plains and endless winds, lies one of China's most extraordinary hidden treasures, the Kanas Lake in Xinjiang. Nestled deep within the Altai Mountains, this turquoise lake changes color with the seasons, sometimes jade green, sometimes sapphire blue, and sometimes pale gray like polished silver. The forests surrounding it are dense and unspoiled, their autumn leaves burning in gold and crimson, as if the land itself were on fire. Mist drifts lazily across the surface, and in the mornings the water is so still, it reflects the clouds like glass. Locals tell of a mysterious creature said to dwell beneath the lake's surface, a legend whispered for centuries. Scientists say the lake's shape and currents create unusual wave patterns, but the locals still insist that something ancient moves in the deep. Standing on the shore, it's easy to believe them. The silence feels sentient, and every ripple carries the weight of unseen eyes watching from below. In the far reaches of Tibet, where the air grows thin and sacred chants echo through the valleys, rises one of the most mysterious mountains on earth, Mount Kailash. Its summit has never been climbed, not because it is too tall, but because it is too holy. To Buddhists, Hindus, and followers of Bon, Kailash is the axis of the world, the center where heaven and earth meet. Pilgrims journey thousands of miles to circle its base, a ritual believed to cleanse a lifetime of sins. The mountain itself stands nearly 22,000 feet high, its perfect pyramidal shape gleaming with ice that never melts. When the sun strikes its face, light scatters into a halo that seems almost divine. The wind here carries no ordinary sound. It hums like the voice of something eternal. Around it, lakes shimmer in impossible colors. Manasarovar, clear as crystal, and Rakshastal, dark and restless like a mirror of night. Together, they reflect the balance of creation and destruction, calm and chaos, in endless silence. Journeying back east, deep within Fujian province, the earth hides a different kind of wonder, one built by human hands, yet born of the same patience as mountains. These are the Tulu, ancient circular earthen houses that rise from the misty hillsides like forgotten fortresses. Each Tulu can shelter hundreds of people within thick mud walls that stay cool in summer and warm in winter. From above, they resemble giant coins resting in green valleys, surrounded by bamboo and terraced rice fields. Inside, families live as they have for centuries, sharing meals, stories, and the slow rhythm of rural life. Many of these structures date back to the 12th century, and though time has passed, the sense of community inside them feels untouched. When rain falls, the sound on the earthen roofs echoes softly through the corridors, and lanterns glow warm in the dim light. The Tulu are living circles, architecture designed not just for shelter, but for belonging. And then there is Jujaigo, a valley so surreal that even photographs fail to capture its stillness. Hidden in the mountains of northern Sichuan, Jujaigo means Valley of Nine Villages, named after the small Tibetan settlements scattered among its lakes and waterfalls. The water here is impossibly clear, glowing turquoise and emerald, so transparent that you can see fallen trees preserved beneath the surface like ancient sculptures. During autumn, the forests burn in red and gold, mirrored perfectly on the glassy lakes, making it hard to tell where earth ends and reflection begins. Snow dusts the peaks in the distance, and the sound of waterfalls flows gently between the trees. Scientists say the valley's beauty comes from high concentrations of calcium carbonate, which refracts light in unusual ways. But standing there, surrounded by silence and color, it feels more like the valley itself is dreaming. You walk slowly, afraid to disturb the peace, every step echoing softly, every breath a prayer. The road through hidden China winds endlessly, through mist and stone, myth and silence. Yet the further you go, the more you realize that these places aren't just remote landscapes. They are reflections of something deeper. They remind us that wonder still exists, that mystery still has a home. And as the journey continues, more secrets wait beyond the horizon, waiting to be found, waiting to be remembered. Beyond the veil of mist and mountains, where the rivers begin to twist like threads of glass, lies a place almost too delicate to believe: the Zhangjiajie Glass Bridge. Suspended 980 feet above the canyon floor, it stretches for nearly 1,400 feet across two sandstone cliffs within the Zhangjiajie Grand Canyon. Below it, 1,000 feet of open air yawns into green valleys and distant waterfalls that fall like ribbons from unseen heights. The bridge itself seems invisible from a distance, as if travelers are walking on nothing but wind. When the sunlight hits the glass panels, they shimmer with reflections of sky and stone, creating the illusion of floating through clouds. Engineers designed the bridge to sway gently, a reminder of both nature's power and human fragility. Standing in the middle, the air trembles softly around you, and for a moment, your heartbeat syncs with the rhythm of the earth below. People who come here often fall silent, overwhelmed not by fear, but by the surreal beauty of standing between worlds, sky above, eternity below. North of the bridge, hidden deep within Gansu province, sits a secret carved into the heart of the desert, the Mogao Caves. These are not ordinary caves, but a 1,000-year archive of human devotion and art. Dug into the cliffs near Dunhuang, they house nearly 500 temples filled with murals, sculptures, and scriptures dating back to the 4th century. Inside, the air is cool and still, scented faintly with dust and incense. Thousands of painted Buddhas gaze from the walls, their colors preserved by the desert's dry breath. Every brushstroke tells a story of trade, faith, and the silent movement of cultures along the Silk Road. Light filters in from cracks in the stone, illuminating fragments of gold leaf that shimmer like stars. Many of the caves are closed to protect their fragile beauty, but for those who stand within one, it feels as though the world outside no longer exists. Time here does not pass. It gathers, layer upon layer, until past and present become the same. In the far reaches of Inner Mongolia, the land opens into an ocean of grass, the Hulungbur grasslands, stretching endlessly to the horizon. Waves of green roll beneath a sky so vast it seems to swallow the earth. Horses gallop freely across the plains, their hooves thundering like drums of ancient tribes. In summer, wildflowers bloom in 1,000 colors, and herders move with the rhythm of the seasons, guiding flocks beneath drifting clouds. The air tastes of wind and freedom. Nights here are cold and boundless, filled with constellations so bright that even the shadows shimmer. Around campfires, you can still hear the old songs of the steppe, melodies that tell of warriors, lovers, and the spirits of the land. When morning comes, dew clings to the grass like tiny jewels, and the entire plain glows under the rising sun. There is a silence here that feels alive, not emptiness, but peace, the kind that makes you remember how big the world truly is. Far south, hidden deep in Guangxi province, the Li River winds through karst mountains that rise straight from the water like emerald teeth. Each peak carries a name shaped by imagination: the Painted Hill, the Carp's Tail, the Elephant Trunk. The river itself is a moving mirror, reflecting 1,000 shades of green and blue. Fishermen here still use cormorant birds to catch fish, guiding them by lantern light at dusk. As the sun sets, the river glows softly, and the silhouettes of the fishermen drift like shadows of a forgotten age. Mist lingers over the water long after dawn, curling around the limestone cliffs, turning the world into a painting that seems half dream, half memory. It's said that the Li River scenery appears on China's 20 yuan note, a quiet tribute to its timeless grace. But being here in person feels like stepping into a world that was never meant to be found. In a small hidden corner of Jiangxi province lies something entirely different: the Weiwen countryside. Here spring paints the valleys with endless waves of yellow rapeseed flowers, flowing between whitewashed villages with black-tiled roofs. The architecture is ancient, the alleys narrow, the air thick with the scent of blossoms and wood smoke. Early morning fog rises between the hills, turning the fields into an ocean of drifting gold. Old bridges arch over quiet streams, and farmers walk slowly through the mist. their figures fading into the light. The villages, places like Likeng, Wangkou, and Shaoqi, have remained nearly unchanged for centuries. Each one tells a story of family, endurance, and harmony with the land. In the evenings, when the sun sinks and the sky glows amber, the sound of crickets fills the fields. It's a world of calm persistence, where beauty does not shout, but whispers softly to those who take the time to listen. And then, hidden deep within Yunnan's borders, beyond narrow paths and quiet rivers, lies the ancient town of Shashi, once a vital stop on the old Tea-Horse Road. Here, cobblestone streets wind through time-worn buildings of clay and wood. Horses still clip-clop through the central square, and the smell of roasted tea and pine wood drifts through the air. For centuries, caravans passed through this town, carrying tea, salt, and silk between Tibet and Southeast Asia. Today, Shashi feels untouched by the rush of the modern world. The old Bai architecture glows warm under the sun, and in the evenings, oil lamps flicker in doorways, casting golden light on weathered walls. Travelers often say it feels like walking into a dream, a place where the rhythm of life has not changed in 1,000 years. Here, history is not a story written down. It's a feeling that breathes in every stone. The road through unseen China is endless, winding through peaks and valleys, through human hands and the slow work of nature. Every step reveals another secret, not loud or grand, but quietly perfect. These are places where time slows, where wonder doesn't shout but hums softly beneath the surface of the world. And still, beyond these, more mysteries call, deeper, older, waiting in silence for those who dare to keep walking. In the remote province of Qinghai, there lies a place so still that sound itself seems to hesitate. Qinghai Lake. It is China's largest inland lake, stretching across 1,500 square miles, resting quietly at an elevation of over 10,000 feet. The water glows a soft turquoise, changing its hue with the shifting light of day. Around it, endless meadows ripple with wildflowers, and distant mountains frame the horizon in a silver-blue haze. Migratory birds flock here from as far away as Siberia, their wings cutting slow arcs through the sky. The air carries a faint chill, tinged with salt and wind. Locals call it the blue sea of the plateau. There is no sound of engines, no hum of cities, only the steady rhythm of waves against the shore and the whisper of the grass. Monks from nearby temples sometimes walk to the water's edge to meditate, their orange robes bright against the cold wind. They say the lake mirrors not the sky, but the soul of whoever looks upon it. To the south, tucked between the borders of Tibet and Sichuan, lies a place that feels like a secret kept by the mountains, Yading Nature Reserve. Known as the last Shangri-La, it is one of the most untouched landscapes left on Earth. 3 snow-capped peaks rise into the clouds, each considered sacred by Tibetan Buddhists: Chenrezig, Chana Dorje, and Jampliyang. Their summits gleam white even under a cloudy sky, and glaciers stretch down their flanks like frozen rivers of time. Between them lie lakes of impossible color: Milk Lake, clear and turquoise as glass, and Five Color Lake, shimmering like liquid crystal. The air here is thin, carrying the scent of pine and frost. Pilgrims walk around the sacred peaks in silent reverence, a journey of days that many describe as life-changing. When the sun sets, the mountains glow faintly pink, and a deep silence descends, so profound it feels almost sacred. In that stillness, you can hear the faint hum of the earth itself, ancient and eternal. Further east, beyond rivers that twist like jade ribbons through limestone hills, you reach a world that seems carved from imagination: the Guilin karst region. These are the mountains that Chinese painters have tried to capture for centuries. Their peaks sharp and elegant, their reflections trembling in the Li and Yulong rivers below. The air smells of wet bamboo and rain. On misty mornings, farmers paddle small rafts made of woven bamboo, gliding silently through a gray-green dream. The landscape feels alive, breathing with every curl of fog that rises from the water. Hidden caves lie within these hills, some containing underground rivers that disappear into darkness, their walls glittering faintly with crystal formations. Travelers who come here often describe a strange sense of nostalgia, a feeling that they've seen this place before, in an old painting or a memory too distant to name. Guilin is not just a view, it's a feeling, one that lingers long after you leave. Deep within the forests of Zhejiang province, hidden behind narrow mountain roads, lies a village nearly swallowed by nature. The abandoned fishing village of Haotuan. Once home to hundreds of families, it was left behind decades ago when the younger generation moved inland. Now, ivy and wild vines have reclaimed every wall and roof, turning the stone houses into green sculptures. The sea glitters in the distance, and the sound of waves drifts softly through the empty streets. Every window frames a view of leaves and light. Birds nest where once there were lamps, and tree roots push gently through the old doorways. It feels peaceful, but also humbling, a reminder of how quietly nature can take back what humans leave behind. On sunny days, the village looks almost unreal, a mosaic of emerald tones and shadows. It's easy to imagine the laughter that once filled these paths, now replaced by the whisper of wind through grass. In Haotuan, time doesn't end, it simply changes form. Southwest of here, the mountains open once again to reveal a wonder sculpted by both earth and time. The stone forest of Guilin, located in Yunnan province. Giant limestone towers rise from the ground like blades of stone, some reaching over 100 feet high. They were formed more than 270 million years ago, shaped by the slow work of water and wind. Walking through them feels like stepping into another world, a maze of jagged spires and narrow paths that twist in unpredictable directions. Some rocks resemble trees, others animals, or faces frozen in mid-breath. When rain falls, it echoes sharply between the pillars, creating an eerie melodic sound that locals call the Song of the Stones. The Sani people, who have lived here for centuries, believe the forest was once a petrified army turned to stone by the gods. At sunset, the rocks glow orange and red, their long shadows stretching like fingers across the earth. It is both beautiful and haunting, a place where myth and geology meet in perfect balance. And in the depths of the southern coast, in a land of rivers and shimmering wetlands, lies a sanctuary of pure stillness, the Shapu mudflats in Fujian. Every morning, as the tide retreats, a vast silver plain emerges, dotted with wooden poles and nets used by local fishermen. The water reflects the sky like a mirror, and the figures of the fishermen move slowly across the shining surface, creating scenes that look like living calligraphy. Seaweed farmers wade knee-deep, gathering their harvest by hand. The air carries the salty scent of the sea and the sound of distant gulls. As the sun rises, the entire landscape glows gold, the wet sand turning to fire under the light. At dusk, the same scene transforms into soft blue, the world quiet and infinite. Few travelers ever find this place, yet photographers who have been here say it's like watching the earth breathe, a pulse of tide and time, steady and eternal. The hidden wonders of China do not shout for attention, they whisper. Some are carved by the patient hands of nature, others by the enduring hearts of those who once called them home. Together they form a tapestry of mystery, beauty, and silence. And as the journey continues, you begin to understand that these places are not just destinations, they are stories the world almost forgot to tell. There comes a moment, after miles of mountains and rivers, when the noise of the world begins to fade, and all that remains is the quiet echo of your own breath. Standing somewhere deep in China's endless heart, surrounded by mist and memory, you begin to realize that this journey was never only about discovering new places, it was about remembering something ancient within yourself, that instinct to listen, to see, to be still. From the terraces of Yuanyang to the silent peaks of Yading, from forgotten villages covered in ivy to sacred lakes that hold the sky, every step has been a return to what endures when the world stops rushing. These places are not meant to be conquered or checked off a list. They are meant to be felt, slowly, deeply, in the spaces between words. When you stand beside the water in Jiuzhaigou or gaze across Qinghai's endless blue, the air carries something unspoken, a reminder that beauty does not exist for us, it simply is. The lakes will continue to shimmer long after we are gone. The wind will keep reshaping the dunes, carving new stories into the earth. The people who live quietly among these wonders, monks who walk barefoot through the mist, fishermen who rise before dawn, farmers who plant the same fields their ancestors did. They understand what most of us forget, that the rhythm of the world does not need to be hurried. In their stillness, there is wisdom. In their silence, a kind of truth. Perhaps that is the real secret China hides so well. Beneath the skyscrapers and noise, beyond the highways and neon lights, there are still places that refuse to change. Villages where the sound of water replaces traffic, valleys where clouds drift lower than the rooftops, temples where a single candle has been burning for centuries. These are the lungs of the world, the quiet spaces that allow the rest of it to breathe. To visit them is not just to see, but to remember, and once you do, something inside you changes, slowly, like dawn creeping over a mountain ridge. The road that winds through these hidden sanctuaries is not a straight one. It twists through time, through myth, through the soft space between what is real and what feels eternal. Somewhere between the glass lakes of Tibet and the stone forests of Yunnan, you stop being a visitor and become part of the landscape, another flicker of life passing gently through its story. You start to understand that the world doesn't belong to us. We belong to it, and that realization, quiet and profound, feels like coming home. So when you leave these hidden wonders behind, when the mist closes over the valleys and the last echoes fade into silence, carry a piece of it with you. Let it remind you to walk slower, to look closer, to listen longer, because the earth still has secrets and they are not hidden out of reach, only waiting for those patient enough to find them. The greatest journeys are not measured in distance, but in the moments when we finally see what's been before us all along. And maybe one day, when you stand somewhere new and feel that same hush in the air, you'll remember these places, the terraces that breathe with the wind, the lakes that hold the stars, the mountains that dream in silence. You'll remember that wonder never truly ends. It only changes shape. The world is vast, mysterious and alive, and every step we take, if we move slowly enough, brings us closer to it. Until then, let the echoes of these secret places stay with you, quiet, endless, and eternal.